Okay, this one I'm going to show you why we use functions. I'm going to close this down. We've run out of tasks. We have no more tasks. We've just done task 5. Develop a program by defining it as a function. Return a binary string from the function into a variable in the main program, which we have done. And the hint was to look back at your calculator program to see how to define a function, and you'll need a main program to call the function, which we have done. So we finished all the tasks that we need, and I've got to do Delany again, so I'm going to minimize that. So why do we need functions, and what use of functions? I've got two here. I've got a while version and I've got a for version which do the same thing. I'm going to delete the main program from both of them, okay, so that all it is just a function. And actually I'm going to change the name of this one. I'm going to call this one get for binary string. I'm going to call this one get while binary string. Okay, and I'm going to copy all of my for into my mini task 5b. So I've got them both in here, but they're different functions, they're different named, get for and get while. So I've got an efficient one with the while loop, and I've got an inefficient one with the for loop. And I'm going to save this file with a particular file name. I'm going to choose File, Save As, and it's sort of a library of routines. Maybe you've heard of libraries or frameworks which build programs together. So it's like a jigsaw puzzle. We're putting all the bits into one box so that we can have a go at pulling the bits we need out to make an entire jigsaw puzzle. So I'm going to call this library. Now I've got to be careful because Python's got its own libraries. I'm going to call it my library, so I don't want to be calling Python's libraries. My library.py, and I'm going to save that. Okay, better still, I'm going to choose File and New, and I'm going to get a new file. And I'm going to close this one down, remembering what it was called. So I've got here a new file, and I'm going to call this at the very top my main program, as I did before. File, Save As, and in the same folder as my library, and it must be in the same folder, I'm going to call it my main.py. So I've now got two files. I've got my main program and I've got my library files. Let's just close this one down. We don't need to save anything. And I want to be able to use either one of those functions that were in the library file. And all I need to do, and you've probably seen this in some Python files, I'm going to import my library. If I could spell, I would. There you go. And that now gives me access to all the routines that were in that library file. And I'd got two, so I'm going to just prove that we're working on either one of them. I'm going to say num1 equals, if you remember, it was called get for binary string, but that's not going to work. Okay, and I'll explain why. So if I save this now and try and run the program, I'm going to get an error message. There we go. It says get for binary string is not defined. Well, it's not hardly surprising because it isn't in here. We actually put it in a different file, but we can use it. What we have to do is put the word my library, so if I copy that, in front of here to say which file it is in, and with a dot between them. So it's in the my library file and it's called get for binary string. Now if I save and run that program, it says please enter a binary string. Oops. Python, I love you. There you go. Now it's not printed anything out because we didn't tell it to in the main program, so all I need to do is change my main program to print num1. So run the program again. Please enter a binary string 11. There we go, we've got 11. Now that one was using the for procedure with the for loop. I can do the same with num2 equals my my library. Don't capitalize things, you will get problems. My library, and it was get while binary string. Now I know I've capitalized these. If you remember, I called it camel case because it goes up and down with the start of each word. But when we are saving files, we could use the same technique. But if your file itself contains uppercase letters, then this would need to contain uppercase letters. As I tend to write all my files all in lowercase, that is to remind me when I am importing my libraries or importing my programs. If I just use lowercase, I can't make a mistake. If you sort of switch it round from time to time, some you save as uppercase, some you save as lowercase, you're going to run into a lot of programming errors. So consistency is the key here. Always save your files with lowercase, even if you've got two words. Don't capitalize any of them on here because you will make mistakes when you import them. So here we go, print num1 and num2. Now num1 is using the for loop to get the binary string, num2 is using the while loop to get the binary string. They're not in here, they're in a library. Let's press F5, run the program, prove that it works. So here's the first one, which is using the for loop, 11 10 11 01. There we go. This is now using the while loop, 110110. There we go, and it prints them both out. Okay, that's the first one, and that is the second one. So hopefully you've understood that we are now using libraries. However, sometimes this can be a bit tedious to keep typing out, particularly when you've got long file names. We can give it what we call an alias. In other words, instead of using the word my library, we can just say as L for lib or library and just replace that with the L. So we've given the library, L contains the word my library. We've got L dot, making it a little bit easier to read. Okay, that still works. So if I save it, and there we go, we've still got it. And if I put an A in, please enter a binary string. Believe it or not, we're still trying to get the very first one. Press enter. You didn't enter anything. 11. There we go. This is now asking for the second one. An A. Space. We're still entering 111. Yeah, that's worked nicely. But notice that please enter a binary string really didn't help us when we were looking or entering a binary string. We didn't know whether it had accepted it and was asking us for another one, or whether it hadn't accepted it and was asking us for the same one again. We need to think about that style of programming and how we get past that. That's the end of this particular video. So hopefully you've understood a little bit about why we use functions. As you can see, my program is really small now. That is a library. I shouldn't, or once I've proven that it works, I shouldn't have to worry about it at all. I am going to change it because I'm going to address that issue of that binary string, the message on the screen. So I'll do that in the next video.